Hi everybody, John Cena here and welcome to FunkQuest Season 2, Episode 20 and the fourth episode of Round 2. And we have a returning Funkster, well, two returning Funksters obviously because it's the second round. So anyway, first of all, Anne, tell me who you are, where you're from.
Yeah, hi. My name is Ann Zaprazny and I'm from Hershey, Pennsylvania, the sweetest place on earth.
Nice. And what do you do?
Yeah, so my nickname is a confidence coach. I work with business professionals and athletes to help transform their performance. I'm really a mindset coach.
Mindset coach. And Kimya, tell me who you are, where you're from and what you do.
I'm Kimya Nuru Dennis. I am from Richmond, Virginia. I lived in North Carolina for 17 years and now I live in Baltimore, Maryland. So I am a social scientist, former college professor, and I have the business 365 Diversity, where I work with schools, companies, and organizations to have real and lasting inclusion and equity in policies and procedures and outcomes.
Excellent. And you, Kimya, funked past Tamilin Guns in the first round and Anne got a walkthrough in the first round. So this is your competitive debut. That's quite interesting. You're gonna, good luck. So if you are a Anne supporter or a Kimya supporter, welcome along. We're going to spend 10 minutes, quarter of an hour just talking about random stuff, and hopefully we're going to find out something new that we didn't know before. And there's a couple of rule changes to make you aware of. The first one is that Funksters can pick any icon that they choose. And the second one, you don't have to have a piece of paper and a pencil ready in about 10 minutes time. Just make sure you've got an electronic device in your hand, which you probably will have because you're listening to this. So we're going to go with the competitive debut Funkster first, and that's Anne. So pick an icon from the question one row. This is cricket, by the way.
I am going to take the battleship.
The battleship. When did you learn how to do CPR? Cardiopulmonary Resuscitation.
Oh my goodness. I probably first got exposure in a babysitting course. Which
Really?
would have been like late middle school, high school, where you had the dummies at the time. And I probably was trained under the process that we do not use right now, right? Where you're like kind of one breath and then you're doing the chest compressions. And I think it's changed where it's mostly chest compressions at this point. And yeah, crazy thing, my mom was a nurse and actually had to administer CPR to somebody who collapsed at church.
Wow.
So lots of memories around CPR.
Yeah. I don't know. Would you know what to do if you, I've done it for years, but would you know what to do? If that happened, would you just click in and know what to do?
I believe it would. I believe it would click in.
Adrenaline kicks in.
Yeah.
Kimya, question one for you. And you can pick anything that you want.
All right. I want the cricket.
The cricket. What are you most excited about at the moment?
There's so much. So one thing I'm excited about is the sunshine being out, to be honest with you. There are a lot of things that we take for granted. So I actually enjoyed seeing the sun out. Mm-hmm. And another thing that I'm excited about at the moment is a lot of people are still doing virtual meetings and events to address health disparities. So I'm not a huge technology person, but I'm actually excited about being forced to learn more technology and to reach a larger audience to address health disparities and health issues instead of all of that being paused during coronavirus tragedy.
It's forced us to do stuff like that, hasn't it? As a global people, we're forced to kind of learn more about all this stuff. Excited about technology. That's quite funky, that. I would like that. Most people think, oh, technology, oh, boring. Excited about it. And your turn to go first. Question two.
I'm going to take the polar bears.
Okay, let's go for the polar bears. What makes you roll your eyes every time you hear it?
What makes me roll my eyes? I have 3 children who can be quite strong in their evaluation and criticism of their mother.
Really? Yeah.
And though they would not classify it that way, I hear it that way.
Yeah.
And last week, all three on the same day seemed to just have that card. And I am such a positive energy and a positive spirit that when I just keep getting hammered, I am like, really, what do I role model that warrants this? So what makes me roll my eyes is my kids' negativity or criticism of my efforts.
Are they likely to listen to this?
Good question.
So if you're listening, Ann's kids, we know how bad you are.
Oh no, it's only on occasion. It's only on
I
occasion.
know. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Question 2.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to pick the polar bear.
The polar bear, okay. I think this will be the same question, which is what makes you roll your eyes every time you hear it.
Okay. All right. So one thing that makes me roll my eyes is every day, but especially during tragedy, people will say things like, we're all human, we're all being harmed the same way. And that's just not true. And so it makes me roll my eyes because for thousands of years, people have kept trying to say, let's all unite. We're all being impacted the same way, which that's why we always tell people uniting requires also an understanding of the differences. And without knowing the differences, we can't come together. So with the coronavirus, I've been rolling my eyes a lot because people said, look, it's all of us the same way. That's just not true. And we also have some preliminary data to prove that's not true.
Well, the virus attacks different people in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Where's that?
Yeah, so we're looking at health, like if you have existing health conditions, like people like myself. Yeah. Also the elderly, young people are being more impacted now based on data, but in nations that have a representation of people of African descent, that has a track too. It's a lot that goes into it. So
yeah. No, there was a thing on the news at the weekend about kids in India that live in kind of street kids. They can't socially distance because they all live 20 in a little shack. So how can they? And they don't have a tap, they don't have running water, they don't have toilets, they don't have all that. And they just, and also South Africa, think about South Africa where people they just want food. As simple as they want food. You don't have to bother about all that. Question 3. We'll let you go first, Kimya, this time.
I want the mountains.
Oh, this is a good question for you. Which was your most radical action?
Okay.
You got a minute.
Okay. Most radical action is speaking out against the key decision makers at an organization who had never been challenged. So I don't consider that radical, but a lot of people for generations thought it was radical because they were afraid to speak out. And this includes when we're talking about health disparities, education disparities. So radical for me, that's not radical, but for a lot of people, for viewers and listeners, they probably think it's radical when you're at a board meeting and you're speaking with medical professionals and you say, wait a second, what you're saying is not true. And it's radical because a lot of people are accustomed to sitting quietly at board of directors meetings and quietly among decision makers because you're afraid of getting terminated from your job. So I say that because I want people to think about why we call it radical in the first place. What does radical mean?
This is FunkyThinkers in a nutshell. That was like a 1 minute ad. Can we use that as an ad for our show? We're going to learn things by different people and challenging what people say. That's what we do. Anne, question 3.
Then I'll take the old-fashioned car.
A flame car.
Yeah.
Question 3. Where on earth would you like to visit?
I would like to go many places. I'd like to go to Alaska and I'd like to go to New Zealand. Once upon a time, I was looking at trying to do like a bike trip through New Zealand. And I just think that would be beautiful and fun. And then my son, as a 12-year-old, went to Alaska and, he came back with beautiful pictures, etc. And so I would definitely like to visit, both places.
Question 4. Who's it? Kimya, we'll let you go first because I think we got out of whack.
The elephants.
The elephants. Where would you want to be if stuck in time?
Right? Not, quarantined, of course.
No. You can move about. If you go there, you can move about.
Ooh, yikes. So is this like a historical question? Like if you could go back in time or just now?
You can go forward if you want.
Mm-hmm. So I'm a mountain person. So if I could be stuck in time in the mountains, just stuck there doing work.
Doing work? Well, I mean, what historical figure would you want to go meet? Phrase it in a different way.
Yeah, I don't have an historical figure that I want to meet, to be honest with you. Yeah, I'm not interested in meeting historical figures. I'm more so want to see the here and now, what's going on and stuff in the future. So if I could be stuck in time, it would be the mountains somewhere around the world, just chilling.
South Island of New Zealand.
Perhaps that would be a good place.
We'll do an outside broadcast from there.
Yeah, that would be a good place. Yeah.
Yeah. Question 4, Anne.
I can't. I'm going to go with the casino chips, the poker chips.
How do we stop using more than we need?
Well, maybe you quarantine us. Right? I mean, what are we learning today? What are we learning? We've been quarantined for about 6.5, 7 weeks. And what are we learning? We're learning that we can slow down. We can spend more time with our family, depending on where you are in this pandemic. I tend to be, I'm inconvenienced. So, we are spending more time playing games, more times doing things together than just, the electronic type of deal.
Yeah.
So I think, how do we stop using more than we need? Hopefully we learn lessons through this time that we take forward.
So I reckon if anybody's listening that's in any kind of power, like a mayor or anything like that, I reckon once a year we should have a month quarantine. That might fix it, might it? We can do all that fun stuff like playing with games with family and stuff for 1 month. Maybe about this time of year, just as the weather starts to smarten up. Question 5. Kimya.
Definitely the strawberry dessert.
The strawberry cake, yeah. I'll have that. I'd like that. Now. How useful is it to know a second language?
It's extremely useful to know a second language, and it doesn't have to be the mainstream accepted languages. So that, of course, depends on where you live. United States of America, common second language is Spanish for people who are native English speakers, but that varies around the world with hundreds of thousands of languages. So I think it's extremely useful. I unfortunately abandoned my second language learning in college, but I think learning a second language is important to combat xenophobia, to combat this notion that there's only one culture that's valuable, only one language that's important to know. And so I know people who know multiple languages and they're teaching their children to learn various languages around the world, including languages that most people have never heard of because it's not on a Google search. So I think that's very important. And I think we need more resources to have access to learning languages.
I think that's a very good point. Resources. Or some kind of official kind of directive.
Yep. So some kind of classes that are teaching languages that are considered non-traditional languages too.
Yeah. Outside of French, Spanish, German.
Yep.
Italian maybe. And question 5.
Yeah, I'll take the gingerbread houses.
Gingerbread houses. When did you have to stay awake for more than 24 hours?
I'm probably going to say when I went into labor.
I might say.
Yeah, so, all my kids start kicking around. The contractions probably started around 4 p.m. and then the child doesn't arrive. I don't leave for the hospital for another 10, 12 hours, and then the child doesn't arrive for another 10, 12 hours.
Yeah.
So,
and they still don't thank you for that. I mean, that's just
it's so funny. And I'm not someone who ever really tracked it. I just know I had one child born at 1 p.m. and 2 born around 4 p.m. But the party started the day before. And, and that's definitely the gift that arrives at the end of that time period, being up over 24 hours, well worth it. Worth it.
Yeah.
And you get smarter in the U.S. after you have your child. They go, do you want the baby to go in the nursery or you want to keep it in the room? And after my first one, I'm like, send it to the nursery. Because I know this is the last time I'm going to sleep.
Good stuff. Right. Okay, that's it. So who won? Well, listener, it is for you to decide who gets through. And somewhere around about this episode will be a Twitter poll where you can send a tweet or you can vote for who you think should go through to the quarterfinals, which is quite exciting. Either Anne or Kimya. So that's it. There's no emails, no nothing like that. Anne, how can we find out more about you and contact you?
Yeah, folks can find out more about me by visiting my website, greatsportsmindsllc.com.
Fantastic. And Kimya, how can we find out more about you?
Yes, you can go to my website, which is 365diversity.com. Also, if you go to my original website, which is KimyaNDennis.com, it takes you to 365diversity.com, and it has all of my contact information and my podcast interviews and all that stuff that you can see what I've been doing all these years.
Ladies, thank you so much for being on the show, and we'll be back next time with episode 21. Thanks so much, and take care.
Thank you, Jonathan. Super job.
Hi, thanks so much for making it to the end of this episode. If you've enjoyed it, please share it with your friends. I have a few people you might want to share it with. Your partner, your parents, your grandma and granddad, your neighbours, your hairdresser, your tea lady, your gym instructor, your swimming coach, postman, the bin man, your cat, your dog, Father Christmas, Mr. Trump, Mr. Putin, Cristiano Ronaldo.